Yes. Yes, please. So as we discussed yesterday in the block 4 of MED312, uh, this was particularly dedicated for instructional design for various situations. For example, it was for classroom, then it was for training, then it was for open and distance learner, and then we learned instructional design for multimedia and instructional design for e-learning. So yesterday we had a very lengthy discussion on the instructional design for classroom and for training program. So during the discussion we found out that instructional design for classroom is primarily a consideration for the learner's background, learner's behavior, learner's circumstances, and so forth. So when we sort of go ahead with our plan for the instructional design for classroom, then first of all, we see what are the various conditions in which the classroom arrangements are made. So we analyze the infrastructural availability. We then go about, with our plan for developing, how to develop it and for whom it is to be developed, and then implement and then evaluate, and finally we go for an overall purpose of the instructional design for classroom. So primarily in a classroom situation, we all know that it is a face-to-face mode. So we keep those factors in consideration which are there with the uh, learners who is enrolled for the face-to-face mode. But when we come to the instructional design for training, then as the basic objective of the training is to develop capacities, to develop the competencies of the people who are perhaps already working or who are supposed to work for a particular organization or for a particular piece of work or particular place where a proficient workforce is needed. So then when we analyze for the training to be prepared, and a model has to be developed for the instructional design, then we consider the background of the training, what why it is being imparted, who are going to be benefited, and when we do the analysis, then we also see what type of participants are going to be there, whether those all of them are employed. So we also take into consideration their work requirements, their expected efficiency, or their expected contribution which they would like to make in a better way after undergoing the training. So during the training, we try to build up the instructional design. Then what do we do? We see when the training can be held, how, what are the requirements for the training, means in physical requirements, that means maybe auditorium, maybe a hall, or maybe a kind of accommodation whereby the training can be facilitated. So we analyze all these things, and when we develop the instructional design for training program, then we see that it has to be built differently than the classroom situation where the learners are coming to learn. There we, because we have small, shorter duration, 2 3 days, or maybe 3 to 5 days, or 3 to 7 days, or at the most maybe 4 weeks or 6 weeks. So what we do, we select such topics which can be transacted within that particular period, and then when we implement it, then we have requirements for the hall, for the furniture, for the microphone, for PPT presentation facility, and so forth. So all those availabilities of various aids, various assistance that are required from the organization, from the administration, So we have to coordinate with the administration. We have to coordinate with the employer where these people are employed who are coming for the training program. Then we have to also make arrangements for their stay, for their boarding, lodging, for their food, for their, maybe you will have also to plan for the reimbursement of their traveling allowance and so forth. So, in nutshell, it's a kind of training module or instructional design, which not only consider the needs of the training or the purpose of the training, but it also considers the arrangements for bringing about the trainers, the trainees to the training point. They're making arrangements for their stay, for their food, for their well-being, and then also maybe certain components of entertainment are also built in the training program. Maybe a cultural evening, maybe a short visit to some place, maybe museum, zoo, or elsewhere. And if we look at the instructional design for training, then it is entirely different from the instructional design that we discussed for the uh, classroom situation. And at the end of it, there is an evaluation, but evaluation is not like after 6 months or after 1 year or after 3 years or whatever period there is for the classroom learners. If it's a degree program, it is 3 years. If it is postgraduate program, it is 2 years. If it is diploma program, it is 1 year, or if it is certificate program, it is 6 months. Unlike that, if we look at the training evaluation for the, then we come to know that it has to be done maybe within 3 days, or maybe at the end of the session, that is 5 days or 7 days, or maybe 4 weeks or 6 weeks. What goes into the evaluation? It is not like the evaluation for the learners of the classroom. Here it may be small formative evaluation and then summative evaluation. And so what do we do with the formative evaluation for the trainers, the training purpose? We just supply a small questionnaire where the certain type of feedback can be given, and if there is some issue which needs to be rectified, then it is immediately rectified so that the trainees can be benefited with the training program within 4 or 5 days or within a week or 4 weeks or whatever period there is. And then there is a summative evaluation. In the summative evaluation for the training program, we do not go with the full length question paper. There may be, say, for example, 15 minutes interaction. So on the basis of interaction, a small evaluation is done and then certification is issued. So it is very different from the evaluation of the learners who do have formative evaluation and also summative evaluation, but formative evaluation is usually in terms of assignments or term paper or whatever it is, and the summative evaluation is in form of terminal examination और सत्रांत परीक्षाएं जैसे कि हम कहते हैं. लेकिन प्रशिक्षण कार्यक्रमों में जो मूल्यांकन है वो बिल्कुल विपरीत होता है, भिन्न होता है. इसमें जब हम कोर्स के दौरान उनका मूल्यांकन करना चाहते हैं तो हम उनको कोई फीडबैक देने के लिए एक छोटा सा फॉर्म तैयार करते हैं जिसमें कुछ साधारण प्रश्न हो सकते हैं, 2, 4, 5, और उन पर भी अपनी राय व्यक्त कर सकते हैं या अपने या कोई प्रश्नात्मक तरीके के कुछ जो जानकारी से भरे प्रश्न हो सकते हैं, उनके आधार पर हम तुरंत निर्णय लेते हैं और जो भी उनके प्रश्न हैं, उनकी जो आवश्यकता है उसको हम दूर करने की कोशिश करते हैं. लेकिन जब हम उनके लिए एक तरह का समेटिव मूल्यांकन करते हैं तो समेटिव मूल्यांकन में हम उनकी पूरी प्रशिक्षण कार्यक्रम की जो रूपरेखा है उसके ऊपर कुछ जो 2, 4, 5 या 10 प्रश्नों का एक छोटा सा प्रश्न पत्र तैयार करते हैं जिसमें हाँ या ना वाले प्रश्न हो सकते हैं या साधारण जो प्रशिक्षण से जुड़ी हुई कोई प्रविधि है उस पर हम चर्चा कर सकते हैं. So it's a different type of summative evaluation, but of course where we issued certificate, degree, diploma to the learners who are learning in the classroom situation, or maybe if it is a lower study or lower classroom study, means higher secondary or middle or primary, whatever it is. So we issue, of course, the certification there. But in case of the learners, or I mean the trainees, we issue certification which sort of explains that they have undergone this particular piece of training, and that adds to their work profile, and they will be either given new responsibilities, and also they will contribute better as a trained as a manpower with the better competences. We also discussed yesterday training the instructional design for open and distance learners. We discussed the characteristics of open and distance learners as which is different to the classroom learners, and the trainees, which we know that they have very peculiar kind of characteristics. They are not full time. They are free. They want to learn through different methods. So we have to keep in mind those methods, those requirements, and according to those requirements, we build the instructional design for open and distance learners. While developing the instructional design for ODL learners, we keep in mind all these considerations. But at the same time, when we develop study material, we all together develop a different study material for the open and distance learners. The material is supplied, I mean, developed, which is self-contained, which is self-sufficient, which is a kind of interactive study material, and there are a lot of other features we discussed yesterday. So that kind of study material is required, and maybe IGNU model can be one very ideal case study where you can very well see that the study material is self-sufficient. It is self-contained, and it helps the learners to study at their own place and pace. Similarly, if we go ahead, then we can see the instructional design for multimedia. So multimedia is basically a combination of various mediums. Then it comes to multimedia, and the biggest advantage of multimedia is IMM, the interactive multimedia. So we try to have text, we try to have voice, we try to have visuals, we try to have animation, we try to have the interactivity. That means we can arrange sessions like teleconferencing or radio counseling or interactive radio IRC, interactive radio counseling sessions where the learners can call to the radio station and where experts are there. They can speak to them. So all these component goes into as part of the design for the instruction in the instructional design for multimedia. So yesterday we couldn't complete the e-learning or the instructional design for e-learning. So today we will discuss this particular part of the block 4 of MADE412. Yesterday we discussed the multimedia or interactive multimedia. So today we go a little ahead with that. So we'll see what is first of all. I think it would be interesting to know what is e-learning. So we all know learning is a permanent change in the behavior, which is brought about by various methods, by various techniques, by various activities in one's behavior. And once it is built, it becomes parts of the personality, part of the individual's behavioral aspect of personality. So if we speak about the e-learning is a web-based instruction. It is a computer-based learning. It can be web-based instruction, CBT, computer-based teaching or learning or a web-based learning. And more recently, it has been in different form with us. It is in the online learning. So we can see the e-learning, sometimes can be CD-ROM based, or today, as we know that in the digitized material based, it can be network based, it can be internet based, or it can be internet mediated. So there are different forms of e-learning today that we have with us. So we talk about the web-based instruction. We all know that it is hypermedia-based instructional program, which utilizes the attributes and resources of the uh, World Wide Web, which is www. So that means we use the World Wide Web or the web uh, portals for imparting instruction to the learners. So if it is virtual learning, then we know virtual learning, it is educational process of learning over the internet portal, and here maybe there is no face-to-face contact, but we can see one another, and then the knowledge, the instruction can be imparted. So thirdly, we have the online learning. Online learning is basically synonym to the web-based learning, where learning is rather, hosted by a Hypernet Transfer Protocol, which is HTTP on the internet. So it is basically the information are there in form of sources. It is uploaded by the academic institutions, and there are access routes to it. And if you follow that HTTP protocol in the internet portal, then you can reach to that. Maybe this type of education is provided on the registration basis, whereby the learners are issued a code or an access code, or maybe a specific ID. And by using that ID, specific code, the learners can learn from this particular method. So e-learning is primarily web-based learning, internet learning, and the online learning. Maybe it can also be called the virtual learning. So where we are not in a direct or in face-to-face mode with the teacher. The learner teachers are not in face-to-face mode, but in some circumstances, the teacher and learners are face-to-face mode in virtual mode. That means they are not physically present at one place, but they may be apart, but they can see one another through the protocols that facilitate the learning. So let us now come to the next point, which is the specific features of e-learning. We are still expecting learners to come and join us, maybe, but if it's not so, then perhaps we will discuss the issue, and it will be recorded for their future purpose, so they can listen to it later on if they need to. So if we look at the features of e-learning, you see it is slightly different from the classroom learning or the face-to-face learning, or the learning which we discussed for the open and distance learners or interactive multimedia learning. So if we look at the very basic feature of the e-learning, it is primarily a learning which is having most flexibility, and rather it is also cost effective, and it can be transacted from the place and pace of the learners. That means the learners need not to be at one place only. They can be mobile during journey, during traveling. They can switch on their mobile phones or their another gadgets, and then there they can access the resources, and they can study from the resources and continue to study. So basically it is self-paced, it is self-directed, it is anytime, anywhere. Then it is a faster learning. That means the teacher will speak, teacher will explain the things with his or her own pace. But in e-learning, there is we can say the pressurized information in small component, and you can pace the speed of downloading it, and it depends upon you. You can download it in a slower fashion, or you can download it immediately with very high speed, and then maybe later on you can learn from it. So it is faster learning in the sense that it's not meaning that the information can be retained by the learner very fast, but it can be there, downloaded, can be made available very fast. And to some extent, it is less expensive because you just need to have the basic gadgets which are essential for the activity, but then you can continue and go on without any end. You continue for a very long time, then it costs very, very less. At the same time, it is collaborative learning. This is a little typical character of the e-learning. It is collaborative learning. That means it is not the learning which one receives, which one gets from the one single person, just like it happens in the classroom. So it is the ODL material is also collaborative in to some extent because a lot of people make their contribution to make the study material or the self-learning material SLM. But there are people who can be very easily identified. Maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10 people might be contributing in one particular block where there are 10 units. Usually one unit is contributed by one person. Maybe jointly also it can be added, but most likely it is by one person. But if you look at the e-learning resources or e-learning information or contents, then there can be any number of people who are contributing bits and pieces and then making one unit. So it is that way. It is self-paced. It is self-directed. It is anytime, anywhere. It is faster, less expensive, and it can be easily managed. What do we mean by easily managed? That means the information that is available through the web-enabled services, through the internet, through the virtual mode or the online. One can be anywhere. One can easily access if one has the basic gadgets. One need not to travel, go to very long distances, go there at particular hour, particular time, or go to a particular place. So it doesn't happen at all. You just have to have the access code and the basic gadgets to access that particular piece of information, particular information about a particular course or program. So that means it is easily manageable. It is expensive, it is less expensive, it is self-paced, it is self-directed, and so forth. So we'll now discuss what goes into making the self-learning material. So we all know what are the instructional designs. Those objectives are same, where we consider the learner's characteristics. Then we also learn about the prior knowledge of the learners' needs, and learners' outcomes, and also measuring strategies. That is the evaluation. Similarly, we also consider the same type of information to go into, which must be in form of units, topics, lessons, modules, and only one thing is there, that the information comes on the e-learning resources in a packet mode. So it is in the chunks. So we do chunking, sequencing in a systematic manner. It is downloaded. It may not be possible to go to the top end, and then so there the information is in packets. So you have to download it in particular pace. So you have downloaded one packet, you go to next, then you go to next one, and another and another. Instructional methods. So it is slightly instructional methods are different. If we go to classroom situation, it is largely face-to-face and the teacher-dominated study. But if it is through the, say, for example, through the e-learning mode, then we all know in these days the webinars or web seminars are very common. And most of the e-learning is transacted through these modes. But we also know that the simulation and games, they also help in learning. And we paced learning is learning whereby the teacher can design a module that it will be transacted today, then maybe tomorrow, then maybe day after, or maybe in 24 hours there may be two sessions or something like it. So it is a paced planning. And then most importantly, what we know, the instructional media, what type of media is going to be there. So there can be graphics, then there will be video streaming. Certain videos are available, especially if you look at the study material which is provided in the digitized form by the National Open University. There are almost all the programs that are available in the digitized format, where there are videos specifically prepared by the faculty, which are covering all the contents of the respective programs. Then there will be, perhaps there can be animations, e-books, computers, and such things which are facilitated by the internet software resources and the media, and also basically it is all done by the media interface. And we know that instructional delivery systems, there are learning management systems, there are portfolio system, there are technology infrastructure which helps in it. And evaluation, similar to the ODL or the classroom, certainly it will be different from the training program. It will be like formative evaluation, summative evaluation, but in between there will be some maintenance or there will be some revision. That means in the e-learning, it is very easy to provide revisions. It is not like providing SLM in the print form, which is very difficult to revise very often. So these are the methodologies which are adopted for for analysis or for design of the e-learning material. So we all know how do we analyze the, first of all, we analyze the needs of the distance learners, what are their needs, particularly those who would like to learn through the e-learning mode. So we have to analyze their needs. So we all know what are the learners' needs. They would like to go into or undergo a certain educational program, or maybe sometimes you can also provide the training through the e-learning. So these all also can be arranged through the webinars, through the conference mode, interactive conferencing mode, and so forth. So we all know what type of skills, what type of knowledge or information inputs is to be given to the learners. So that is assessed, that is analyzed. We also know what type of contents are to be provided. Those are dependent or those have to be in accordance with the demand of the course which they are pursuing. Or if they are the training programs participants, then we have to see what are their profession for which the training is being required. So then we plan the contents according to the work requirement of the trainees. So then we also have to assess, technical analysis, whether we have to assess the feasibility, whether all the training programs can be organized through the instructional design can be prepared for the e-learning for training programs. We have to see the feasibility. Maybe if it is a highly technical type of training program, it may not be possible where hands-on practice is required. But if it is brainstorming sessions, which it is general information which is to be given, and maybe some sessions where interactivity can help, then these are planned accordingly. So, so if you look at the instructional design for e-learning, then we come to know that e-learning can be for any type of learning. It can be for training programs, it can be for open and distance learners also we can arrange. We are doing it quite often, but at the same time we also have to see the certain other aspects which are there, especially when we design instructional plan for the e-learning. We have to see that the learners are uh, well accustomed, well informed about the protocol of the e-learning. So what do we mean by protocols? Protocols means they should know how to operate the internet, how to use the internet, how to use the computer, how to download the information, and so forth. So these days it is becoming very important that their entry behavior is properly analyzed and it is properly assessed that they are ready to learn from this particular mode. So these are the structural component. We all know that how does it happen. We have the topics, we have the subtopics, we have the in particularly e-learning mode, we have the reusable information object. That this is a little typical. It is not with the self-learning material or with the classroom situation. That means here we build small packets of information. So those are the packets of information. Those can be used at any point of time. So they become from reusable information object. They become a reusable learning object. They are available all the time, and they are part of the modules, and modules are part of the course. It's just like other models. So these instructional strategy for designing e-learning, this will be little interest to us. So some instructional strategies that are adopted for the design, for the instructional design of e-learning, these are information presentation. You see, the design contains specific format. It is slightly different from the training program. It is different from the open and distance learners. It is different from the classroom. It is presented, I mean, there is a display of the information, the text, whether it is text information or whether it is graphical information, it is presented. So it is not discussed, it is not transacted from teacher to learner, or it is not, this is not done in a way like we do with the audio video based learning and so forth. So it is basically presented on the computer display from where learner can either directly see it or learner can later on as reusable information packets or information learning resources will download and use it at his or her own pace and place. As we said, it is self-paced, self-directed, it is collaborative, it is cost-effective, and it is easily managed study. Then decision making. You see, it is very important. If it happens in the self-learning material mode, then teachers do not have much, to sort of make a decision, because whatever is there with the self-learning material, then it will be presented in the same fashion. But if you go to the e-learning resources, then you can see those can be very easily replaced, very easily managed. So you can say the facilitator or the resource person who is dealing with the information or may not be present, it is already there. But decision making is very different. So computer and web technologies allow the learners. You download the packet and then you can modify it. You can add more information to it. So guidance and collaboration is there. The drill is and practice. I already said this thing to you. Drill and practice is first of all the learners have to be ready to learn from this particular method. So that means there has to be a kind of pre-education, pre-information or pre-training to the learners for utilizing these resources in this particular way. Then articulation and creation. This is very important. Articulation and creation. It is very important that on the e-learning platform, the presentation part is very, very important. So it will be very strong. It will be very effective if there is a presentation skill with the presenter. That means if your tutor is well accustomed, equipped, well trained with the training, with the presentation methodology, with the presentation technique, it will be presented in very effective manner. So there has to be a style, modulation, and proper punctuation, proper grammatically correct, and also in a manner that it can reach the learner quite easily. And in a particular style, you know that the language of the presentation is slightly different from the text. So all these factors they go into making the instructional design for e-learning. These are some important points, and of course, the evaluation and assessment is happens in the same way, but slightly differently. There will be online examination in this particular format. So definitely, these examinations are not going to be face to face. They will definitely have to be online mode. So the learners will have to take them as per the schedule fixed by the system which provides the learning facility and so forth. So this is the evaluation. So evaluation is almost similar. So there isn't much difference with regard to evaluation. Maybe it is long answers, maybe short answers, maybe small answers, or maybe yes or no answers. So they have to be attempted online, and once you have done that, you will submit the evaluation answer sheet to the respective node. That means you will submit it online, and it will be evaluated, and the grade will be awarded. So this was the instructional design for e-learning. So this was a part which was there to project pertaining to MED 312 block 4, last unit, which was unit number 20. So Arti, welcome. So we
Yes,
have
sir.
yeah. So we did this e-learning one, which is slightly different, from the training program and also the classroom for the open distance learners who largely learn from the self-learning material. So e-learning is just, all these things are common, but slightly the media is different, and the prior knowledge is required to deal with, to handle the equipments and be ready for learning from this particular methodology. So this is happening quite a lot these days. So it is an upcoming area which I think as a distance learners we must know, and as a student of Master of Arts in Distance Education, it is very important because a lot of distance education is coming through this particular e-learning mode. So the instructional design is very important to know how to design, what goes into making it, what are the requirements. Requirements are similar. Everybody wants to either learn through the classroom mode, but if it's not possible, we go to the open distance learning. And if that still is not according to the needs of the learners, then one can go for the altogether for the e-learning. So we have to see the e-learning instruction plan. It is almost same, but delivered differently. Planning is slightly different, and the methodology is slightly different. Contents are presented differently. We use different media for it. So now we will move to block 5. Block 5 is portfolios. So this is interesting. Maybe you can tell me what a portfolio, what is the requirement for the portfolio. So uh, we will see what do we mean by portfolio. Are you aware about the portfolios in instructional design for portfolios? What is portfolio? Arti, can you discuss it?
It is something written
Yeah.
about in a
It
mark
is.
form.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm just making a small, lighter kind of environment,
Describe,
right? So
describing something.
yeah, yeah. So you see, this portfolio, making portfolio. I think in common parlance we know portfolio, na? Like all these models, they have portfolios. All
Yeah.
the big people, they have their own portfolios. So this is, I was a little troubled, when I read it, that the portfolio is included for the distance learners also. This is interesting in a way. And when I know when I went through it, I found it is interesting because this is a new topic which has been added. Portfolio
Okay,
for the distance learners. But it was quite interesting. So first of all, if we Uh, I will give the rationale, and I
you mean
liked.
portfolio for whom? For the learners,
Yes, sir, it is dealing with learners.
similar to curriculum vitae or what?
Yes, 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 almost, yeah, almost. But it is that way, not for learners. But it is for the institution basically to have a portfolio of the learners. This is what I mean. Portfolio of the learners for the benefit of the institution,
Okay, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
So you see, it is quite interesting because usually we prepare portfolio for job for something like it for professional purposes. We don't prepare portfolio as a student for the academic institution, or the academic institutions do not prepare the portfolio for of the students for their own use. In fact, the institutions. So it is slightly typical. I mean, the what I should say, the word has been or the portfolio has been used here as a tool of having a database of the students in particular fashion, in particular mode, to use it for various activities of the institutions. That means to plan, to develop, because we are talking about the instructional plan now. We are talking about the portfolio in terms of instructional design. So it is quite interesting if the institution has a portfolio of the learners, it becomes very easy to plan various academic activities for the learners. This is what we are going to discuss. So it is basically a background note, or it is basically a packet of information about a learner or about learners as to plan the various academic activities for the benefit of the learners. So it is in that aspect. Do you get some idea? Do you find some rationale in it?
Yes, sir.
So it is not portfolio per se, just like models, just like film stars, just like very high profile
Professional comment.
bureaucrats and so forth. So it is a portfolio in the sense that it is a small packet of information which is gathered in a specific design, and then it is kept with the institution as a background note on the background of the learners, so as to plan different activities for the learners. So I found it very useful, though peculiar, but it is very useful. The word has been used, or the facility has been used for the learning. So it's quite interesting, and I would say that maybe after discussion you will also agree that it makes a real sense that yes, we should have. So one thing which the portfolio carries, it is basically a small carry sheet, CV. And this carry sheet gives the information about the learner, about the demography of the learner, about the various other traits of the learners, about the aspirations of the learners, ambitions of the learners. So it in a way contains information. So it's a basically carry sheet, because portfolio has the derivation from the Latin word portere, which is to carry. As so folio means a small sheet. So as we carry our CV, so it is same for the distance learners to, if they have portfolio, that means they have small sheet which carry information about them. So maybe it is demographic information or information pertaining to other aspects of the learners. So as we see, as it is provided that what are the various components of the portfolio. So portfolio contains the vision, goals, and outcomes of the learners. So the institution wants to know what are the visions, what are the goals, what will be the outcomes. So why the learner wants to learn, then what will be his or her aims and how they will be achieved in terms of outcome. So all these things goes into the making of the portfolio. So so maybe we all know that it has to be well documented, it has to be well drafted, the information must be projected in a way that those data can be properly handled, and maybe some study can be built out of it if the data is available with the institution. So it has to be that way. So what it does, it's basically helpful. The student portfolio can be helpful for the printing material. That means you can accordingly, prepare the print material. You can bring about the case studies if there are portfolio. Like it is very interesting. The alumni, the word alumni. Are you aware of the term alumni? So it is
Yes,
like,
sir.
yeah, alumni. So at
Dear students.
these are the ex-students of a particular university or institute, those who
Yes,
are
sir.
pass outs and ex-students. So what we do with alumni? We keep their portfolios, and we use it for projecting the institution. We in various seminars and various platforms we use that information. Similarly, if we have the portfolios of the learners or would-be learners, then what we can do, we can plan our print material accordingly. And if there are specific demands of those learners, then we can plan the unit scheme and the structure of the courses also slightly different from the ODL mode. And we can bring out journals on their studies. We can have proper records and logs, and there are different methods of doing it and different purposes of having the portfolios. So we can use it in peer group meetings, that we have these types of learners with us, those whose portfolios are with us, and there are specific needs of these students, like that. So, but we must have the portfolios. That is true. So that is the very first thing, that we must have the information. That means we must have the fact sheets of the learners, and upon which. So when we design, we do the same thing: analyze, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. All those features goes into when examine the needs. So this is AD approach. I think we are following the AD approach in all our instructional design. So we go with this particular technique. We first of all examine the needs of the targets, means those can be learners, those can be trainees, distance learners or classroom learners. And then we design, we take their case studies, means which is we call storyboarding, and then we prepare the portfolio on the basis of the story. So it has to be how it should be, what it should reflect basically. What should the portfolio reflect about the learner? It reflects the learner's background, learner's interest, learner's critical thinking, learner's expectations, and the learner's issues with the education. Maybe if you ask through a performer, you can say, why do you want to learn? What is your aim? What do you want to achieve through this learning? We can also ask why you didn't learn through the face-to-face mode. So there can be problems and sort of things. So lastly, write few lines about your education. So there you are also evaluating the learner. So that all goes into design. And then you collect the information, prepare the data, and maybe through certain softwares you segregate it differently. Then you bring out in certain design, and then maybe you can publish it or you can keep it for the future purposes. So implement it means you process it and process it and use it for the demonstrative learning and finally evaluation. So all this goes into the portfolio. Types of portfolio. This is a little interesting. So there are various types of portfolio. No? Even if it is students' portfolio, it can be different types. If you look at the students' portfolio also, there are certain students who are working. So these are the working portfolios. So what sort of work they are doing? So if you talk about their work, their type of nature of employment, then their nature of work, then their nature of futuristic scope in that particular workplace, and so forth. So if that type of information is there in the portfolio, it will be working portfolio. Similarly, if it is a display portfolio, this is another aspect of, particularly with the students. There are a lot of students who are very good at artwork. There are certain students who are very good at presenting information in a logical manner. So what we do, we prepare portfolios where their creative work is reflected more significantly. Of course, there is basic information, but then there is specific information, specific part which is there for the presentation of their creativity. So these are the display portfolio. If they are good artists, then their artwork can be presented. If they are good writers, then their works can be displayed in the portfolio. And if they are critiques, they can bring about certain essays and things. So all those things can be there. So primarily it is an artistic work or creative work. So both can be part of the student's portfolio, and those portfolios will be termed as display portfolio. Then there are assessment portfolios. So the assessment portfolios are there to highlight the achievements that have been made by the learners. So all these things can go into the. So there are skill area portfolios also. So for example, if we have somebody who is having highly skilled training, highly skilled student, or maybe say for example, there are certain students in the distance learning who are working in the Air Force, who are pilots, who are locomotive pilots, or who are very good at handling certain skill components, skill areas. Then that their portfolio will reflect those particular skills that they have acquired in a particular area. So if those are reflected, those portfolios are called skill area portfolios. So similarly, there are a number of other, you can add any dimension to the portfolio. So this is what goes into the making the portfolio. So maybe a similar approach is with the e-portfolios. So if we design and develop e-portfolios, here it will not be, the portfolios will be created through the electronic mode, and those will be available through remote access. If you prepare them through the institution may publish them in terms of journals, in terms of reports, in terms of maybe reflected in the study course contents also. So it is slightly different. If it is e-portfolio, then e-portfolios, those are also guided by the general rules. But e-portfolios are basically digital or electronic, and these are specifically in those areas where technology, high-end technology is used. So the only benefit with the e-portfolios is that those are not physically prepared. Those are kept in the digital mode, and they are easy to store, they are easy to access, but then they are not published. Very importantly, the data is not published. So that is the only difference. So maybe Aarti, do you get some idea why e-portfolios are required? What is e-portfolio? So e-portfolio is not very complex thing. It's very simple thing. It is added. It is good to this discussion that primarily it is an area of analysis in a way. Addy's approach.
Yes, sir.
So, do you want to discuss assignments today? Because this will be the last session for 312. So, if you want, we can discuss the assignments.
So for me, assignments are okay. I think all
O-
the topics we have already read.
Okay, okay, okay. So, then I think we come to the end of this with the discussion. So, do you have any queries or?
No, sir, this unit was okay.
Yeah.
All this block
Uh,
was up to the
uh,
mark, block 5.
just I will have a look at the assignment part. I have the assignments with me. I will discuss it. I will have few points to make. Have you attempted the assignment so far or not?
So I've read it. I've gone through that.
This
SEO
3-1
model is there. Yeah.
uh, growth and philosophy, and now this is the 412 instructional design. So say for example, if I had something with the
First question is,
long
yeah.
answer question. Answer any one of the following questions within 800 words. Discuss the implications of the 10 steps pertaining to core CID, four components of instructional design, and explain the pebble in the pond approach. So these are altogether different type of questions which have been put particularly this time. And if you come to the short answer questions also, the learning strategies, example, address the needs of different learners, types of the distance learners. So there is a Bloom's theory, Carl Rogers theory, in the and differentiate between the formative and summative assessment. This could be a very universal question, formative and summative assessment. How these are two different assessments? So I think there isn't much very crispy assignments and not very complex. So that way it is quite easy. I do.
So in my assignment, it is something different, I think. First
Okay.
question is answer the following question.
Uh,
Discuss the implication of behavioristic theory of learning in
okay.
designing instruction. Yeah.
It is different.
Yeah, it is different. For due date for June 30, 2023. We are from January batch. January
The last date
2023
is
batch.
June 13.
June 30, yeah.
What is the very first question?
The first question,
What is the
first question
constructivism?
is, first question is discuss the implication of behavioristic theory
Oh, I see.
of learning in designing
So
instruction.
are you talking about the 2001 MNA 2021 or 22?
No, due date is June 30, 2023. And we have got the assignment for January 2023 batch, first year.
Okay, okay. These are slightly different then. Okay, see, yesterday we discussed those were right with certain learners. They had the same questionnaire which we were discussing. So if you
So
go
let
to
me
the
share
meaning of
the screen.
assignments, is it for January 2022 or January 2023?
2023. So let me share the
23.
screen.
Okay, okay,
Current
okay. Yeah, I get this idea. Yes, yes, yes. Right, right, right.
What is it sharing on?
2023.
Is
Yes.
it there?
Yeah.
Is
Okay,
it there?
okay. I saw. Yeah, yeah. That is true. Fine, fine. It has different questions, set of questions. Only thing we have to keep it in mind because for learners who enroll in yes, I got it.
Yes, sir, this
Just
one.
a moment. Just a moment. I will. Yeah.
Here it is written the due date June 30,
No,
2023.
the due date is the same for everybody. But yes, you are right. You are right.
We have
It,
got this.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, it is fine, fine. I get your point. Uh, it is incoming. Okay, okay. Can you just put it in small screen,
Yes, sir.
not very large? Yeah, yeah. That if you can scroll it down slightly. Yes, just hold on, hold on. Discuss the implications of behavioristic theory, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So yeah, this is quite good question. Behavioristic theory is very important for the purpose, and so this was 412 block one, 412.
Yeah. Block
Yeah,
one had different theories, no? Behavioristic, cognitive.
yeah, yeah. This we discussed. We also discussed the Azure, right? The three. That is previous. That is the titles one. These are the
This
facts. Anyway, no
block.
issue. If it is clear with you, no problem.
Yes,
This is
sir.
the unit scheme, na? Yeah, the, these are the assignments. These are the assignments.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Just fine. Just okay, okay.
And in
Uh,
second question, we have to choose any three of the following and then we have to answer.
yeah,
And
the
third one
first
is
one.
perspective model.
Yeah, describe the three uh, contextual learning, na? And what are the learning outcomes? This is also very good, right?
Yes,
The
sir.
deep
We have
query and
already gone through this.
yeah, discuss the purpose of need assessment. So we have been talking about all these issues, I think, in all the
Yeah,
discussion. What is the need
yeah.
assessment? Why do we assess the learners? This pertains to the demographic needs and the background needs or learner characteristics and so forth. And this is Kirkpatrick's needs. We discussed it yesterday briefly. It is in block 4. I think you maybe last unit or so. So anyway, these are not very complex. These are quite easy, and we have almost discussed with,
Everything,
all
yeah.
assignments. So then I think it is okay. So is there any other query we can discuss?
No, it is okay for MDE 412.
We will begin MDE 413 next week.
Okay, sir.
So from Monday we will begin with MDE 413 and then
Can I
uh,
stop sharing the screen, sir?
yeah, yeah, you can. I would just take a small look back at the 412. And so yesterday we Yeah. We discussed yesterday. Today we had the stimulants. So I think with a small recapitulate note about the e-portfolio, we will then end the session. Just let me do this thing. So I think we will conclude it with the discussion on the e-portfolio, why it is required as we discussed. It is a small fact sheet. We can also call it a fact sheet, though it is they technically call it a carry sheet because
Okay.
we carry it. So technically it is a fact sheet about a learner, but they have used the word fact sheet, and it is basically for the educational context. It is not in the business, or it is not in the employment context, because employment portfolio is slightly different. It is over the only difference between the educational portfolio and the employment portfolio or the assignment portfolio is that these are two.
So it is used exclusively for designing instructions in future for the upcoming students, I think, right?
That is one. But see, there's a small difference. There's a small difference between the two. One, because it is used exceptionally for the educational purpose or planning education. You are very correct. But the difference is that these are fact based.
Actual
But
data are there. No?
yeah, and the data is there. But if you see the employment portfolio or the assignment portfolio, they are highly over projected.
Right.
Specifically, because it became very familiar with this portfolio board became very familiar with the artists and the models. So if you look at those portfolios, those are highly over presented. So there are a lot of
That focuses mainly on the skills which is required, I think.
yes, and those are largely fudgy also sometimes. Those are not factual sometimes because there are a lot of made up things in them.
Yeah.
Maybe on the skill also, but much not very bona fide information or the showcasing of the skill is there. But if you look at the portfolios of the learners, whether it is for distance learners or it is for the, you see, even the conventional institutions have their very big journals, big reports which have very extensive portfolios of the learners. Because that,
Even my son is in school. He used to make a portfolio file for him, and they are made to keep it in the rack in their class. That is
okay,
called as portfolio. So whatever the activities they used to do, they have
exactly.
to keep it there.
So it becomes, say, a performance or a presentation portfolio. It becomes your work portfolio, then the any other aspect which is presented. But then those are factual and those are based on what you have done, what you have achieved. But these portfolios are significant because they also record students' journey to the graduation program. Graduating means not graduate degree, but graduating means completing the program. So it becomes a good teaching tool. What I'm trying to say is that it becomes a teaching tool for the coming students. It works as a teaching tool for the coming students also. So it is basically also a summary of the students' major learning accomplishments in a particular institution. And also sometimes it works as a, what we say, project. We also use it as a projecting tool for some institute. If there are a large number of students who have passed out and are doing great, so their portfolios help the institutes to reach larger body of students and learners. So, yes, whereas factually it represents the student in a way, but at the same time it also benefits the institutes or learning system also, and also it's encouraging or encouragement to the coming students, because they feel very proud that we have such luminaries who have passed out from this institution, and then in various conferences, seminars, or maybe in conclaves, specifically where institutions are represented, there these are displayed. So these are displayed in terms of presentation, in terms of journals, reports, and also I think sometimes kinds of collections and big volumes are there of the students'
Mm-hmm.
portfolio. So these things. So maybe then I think we will take a break. Will be uh, deep uh, three, and then we will take out. So the 413 is largely about the learner support services, learner support systems and services. Uh, this will be extensively talking about what type of institutions we have, and what are the various services that are available with these institutions, and what are the various infrastructures that are provided there in the institutions, and also different types of services. That means what the headquarters is doing, what the regional center is doing, what are the learner support centers, what are the various facilities available with the learner support centers, and then what are the various functions of the learner support. Why do we develop? Why do we have the learner support centers, learner support system? So it deals with the infrastructure. We will be dealing with the infrastructure. We will be dealing with the approach. We will be dealing with the contribution of those, or like if you have tutoring service available, counseling, media, technology, organization, library services, referral services. Then you have the information outlets available at the various nodes. So how those are managed, and then also the different skills that are developed through the counseling, tutoring, or other facilities that are available in learner centers. And there are various tools to assess the learner performances, like we will discuss the tutor comments specifically because it pertains to the support services. These are meant to help the learners in moments of isolation, or maybe when the learner feels little down. If one is not making proper practice, then there is need for the learner's support. So that comes in terms of assignments. Assignments are evaluated, then the tutor interacts with the learner through the tutor comments and support. So tutoring is very important aspect of the learner support system. So we will discuss this, and also management of learner support, how these are managed in distance education, how the expectations are met, how the various services are managed, and very importantly, what is the role of the field stations or regional centers, what is their responsibility, what are their roles, so what do they do? So they do specifically they monitor the learning progress of the learners through various tools like assignments, like feedback studies, and also the comments of the evaluators for those who evaluate the term and examination answer sheets. They also make certain comments and so forth. And very importantly, one of the major support of the distance learners to the distance learners in the distance education is the library and information services, which is made available through the regional centers, to the learner support centers and the headquarters. So I think we will conclude our discussion with this because I discussed this particular issues or the points that we will discuss in 413 because you can have some idea as to what we are going to discuss. So maybe if you can come a little acquainted with the block 1, which is learner support services. Primarily it is an introduction. Why the learner supports are there, the system is there, then what are the basic issues in learner support services and institutional arrangements and models. A whole lot of discussion will be on the dual mode, single mode, how do they work in dual mode, like the university is dual mode, like these are exclusively dedicated for the distance education. And then the overall impact is to develop a self-directed learner. So with this, I conclude and I take leave for the day and wish a very good day. And we hope we meet on tomorrow, day after tomorrow, that is on Monday at 11 a.m. with MED413, which is Learner Support System and Services.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.
So we will now meet on Monday. So have
Yes, sir.
a good day today.
Yeah. Wish you the same, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
ma'am. Thank you, RC Chandigarh also. We have almost concluded the business for the day and we will meet on Monday. Thank you.
खाली है ये सरकार का डब्बा खाली है आप शैम्पू का पापा नहीं पापा थोड़ा सा बचा है इसमें मेरा जो है और क्या क्या फंसेगी फंसेगी ऊँचे स्थानीय रोटी